Okay, Frank, here it is. You've been after me for a long time to make a line, make a list of all the jobs I've had, and there's been a few. So I'm going to attempt to do all of this. I found that I have to stop this recording at 15 minutes because YouTube won't let me load anything much bigger than that. So I'll keep an eye on the clock here, and at about 14 minutes, I'll stop on whatever number I'm on, and I'll pick up on the next video. So Frank, thank you very much for keeping after me on this, because it's a very good opportunity to review my whole life, thinking about all the jobs I've had and what I've done. Some of them are a lot of fun, some of them are weird. I think so you'll enjoy hearing about them, and perhaps some of the family will watch this and they'll get a kick out of some of it. But it's very good for me, and so thank you so much, Frank, for doing that. So I'm going to start off. There's a lot of little jobs I had when I was young, and all of us had things like mowing lawns and getting snow off the sidewalk and all that. But I'll start with number one, and that is the Ideal Dairy Store. And those that may not know that, my parents had called the Ideal Dairy Store. It was the equivalent in those days in the 50s of a 7-Eleven. We were open from 7 to 7, or maybe 7 to 9. I'm not even too sure. Anyway, that was a big job for me. It wasn't just doing errands. I had to take care of the bottle returns. I had to stock the shelves. I learned how to run the counter and run the cash register. And there was my first real experience. I was, my dad said, watch the front, because we lived in the back and in the bottom, and the bathroom was in the bottom and the very back of the store, which once had been a church. And so downstairs where they had all the meetings, and then upstairs was the main section, and behind that was where the minister lived. So he said, watch the store, which meant he was going to go down to the bathroom, which was quite a run, and I was to watch the door, and anybody came in, I'd just take care of them like I did. So sure enough, as soon as he heads out, I hear a ring on the bell. I go out, and this fella comes walking in, a little strange. He's got this coat on, walks up to the counter, puts a gun in my face. Well, on the counter, pointed at me. And I could see the shells, the bullets in the chambers, and I went, oh, I just kind of froze. He said, okay, open up the cash register. He had been obviously watching. Pull all the bills out, and I did. I gave them to him, and he backed out. And as soon as he turned around, and just as he went off the front door, my dad showed up, and I said, we've been robbed. And he didn't understand it for a minute. Then he looked at the cash register and said, there's no money in it, so we must have been robbed. So that was a highlight of that. And of course, there I was in junior high school. And don't you know, about a day later, the police come to the school and pull me out of class, take me downtown, and I look at a lineup. And I think I saw the guy, but they said, look, we got a lot on this guy, so don't worry about it. He's gonna be going to jail. So that was my number one main job. So now I'll show you number two. And number two, I was just a bag boy, but it was because of my experience at the grocery store. I hired on as a bag boy in what today would have been like the Safeway, the big store downtown, our place being just the little corner store. And so I was a bag boy for quite a while and made some money. Number three, that's a pretty common one, is golf caddy. And of course, almost all of us, did some golf caddying, and it was pretty good money. Uncle Pete, of course, we caddied for him. I loved it. He used to call me Eagle Eye, because I had good vision, and he didn't. And so that was good for me. So that was number three. Number four, okay, around 1961, we moved to Sacramento. And the first job I had there was a trampoline instructor. I learned how to bounce on the trampolines while in high school, and then the trampoline center opened up, and this other fellow and I, who had been doing a lot of that, we worked for the company. We ran the cash register, and we did demonstrations of flipping on the trampoline, which helped bring in the help. Okay, number five, still related, a little closer. Number five, still related to trampolines, because about my junior year, I came out back to Cheyenne, stayed with Aunt Gertie, and spent the summer there. Well, don't you know, I got there and somebody had said, well, they have a trampoline center. I said, oh, well, that's interesting. I walk out and sure enough, it's the afternoon and I go out and I pay my 50 cents or $1 and I get out and I start warming up. And for me, a warm up is, 8-9 feet in the air doing a flip, and nobody's ever seen that. So right away they call the boss, and the boss comes in because he owns some other business. He says, hey, would you like to work for me? So, oh, good, another job. What is that? That's only number 5 at this point. And so, sure enough, I'm the night guy. My job is just to bounce. And so it attracts, he probably calls somebody, and the local media comes in and they make a story out of it. And I'm doing this thing called swing time, where you go up and you do a backflip, come down, go up, do a front flip, do a backflip. And then every now and then I do a dive. And I mean, for me, it was just normal stuff, but it was a big thing for there. So that was good. I got paid, and the boss's daughter was cute, and she had a car, and I dated her. So there you go. It doesn't get better than that. Okay, here we go. Number 6. Let's see, 62, 63. I was in high school, and I got a job at a bowling alley. It was actually run by a friend of ours from Cheyenne who had moved to the Sacramento area. So I had the job what they called a porter, which meant I ran all around the bowling alley. They had 49 lanes. It was said that they didn't even have a key to lock the doors because they'd never closed. So I would clean up, somebody spilled a beer or a Pepsi, I'd clean that up. Then I'd go out and do the thing on the lanes where I'd pull this thing back and forth kind of to oil the lanes. And then I'd go fill the Pepsi machine, clean the bathrooms. I mean, whatever it was, they'd say, porter, spill on 3, and off I'd go. And it was a great job. I mean, and I got wages of I had to be put into the, what'd they call it? I had to be paid the going wage. I couldn't be paid something less than that. Okay, so it was a heck of a good job. And I learned to be independent was probably the best part of that job. Okay, coming up on number 7 here. Let me get my cue card going. Okay, number 7. I got a job because my dad worked at what would have been then Walmart, sort of. They had all kinds of stuff in there, and they had a radio department. My dad got me hired on, and they showed me how to sell radios, transistor radios. That was the big thing. And it was interesting. They had this special little note on it. It's called a spiff. It was a special incentive something or other. And I got extra money. I think I got like 50 cents if I sold one of the radios that had the little marker on it. So I'd push the radio that had the marker, get the extra money. Learning to be a capitalist early on. Paid off well because I've been a salesman for most of my life. Obviously, I took off after Dad. So, okay, let me get my number 8. Let's see what number 8 shows up. Okay, number 8. I was a driver. I did a few jobs driving because I was a good driver, and I worked for Dell's Barber and Beauty Supply. So I drove all around town taking razors and spray equipment, or ladies' hair equipment to different spots all around town, and it was a good job. And once again, what I noticed was I started doing jobs that were very independent. I think part of it was at the grocery store. I learned to be independent, to work things. I learned what it was like to be robbed. So I had that in my portfolio, and it paid off in spades for the rest of my life. Okay, so number 9. I was enrolled at American River Junior College, which I ended up failing out of. I got so many D's. As they said, junior college was just a high school with ashtrays. And so in my 3rd semester, they literally said to me, son, you need to take a break because you're going to end up with so many D's that if you ever get back to college, you'll never make a grade point beyond, 0.1. So they said, get out of here. To my advantage in many ways, I had joined the Naval Reserve in high school, and I went active to Vietnam. So while I was there at the junior college, and let's see, we're at 9 minutes. Okay. So while I was at junior college, I hired on as a job as a sleeper. Did I put that? No, that was number 9. So number 9 is I hired on at the fire department as a sleeper, which meant I spent the night at the fire department, slept in the bunks, and if something came up in the middle of the night, a fire, everybody'd come out and I would go down and I'd go with the fire with them. Mostly what I was doing was just handling hose. But the funnest part, Frank, was you had mentioned something that reminded me of this, and that is I got to ride in the front of the cab and I got to pull the string that made the fire engine or the alarm bang, bang, bang as they went down the street. So it was a fun job. Okay, so then off I went to the Navy. So that would be number 10, and that took a couple of years. I was in the Navy. I was on a destroyer called the USS Duncan. A destroyer sounds kind of mean. Well, it's got some big guns, not as big as many, but it's basically as long as a football field and had 300 men on it. And I was trained because I was one of these great, unusual guys in the Navy who had gone to college, even though I failed out. They didn't care about that. They were all excited. I could actually, think and walk and chew gum. So they trained me to be a dispersing clerk. So I took care of all the pay. And it turns out in the Navy, you don't mess with the guy who does the pay records. Nobody gives me a bad time. They didn't care what rank I had. You didn't get any problem. So it was a cush job in that regard. I made 2 trips to Vietnam and back. And then at the end of that 2 years, I was on a 2-year tour, and they flew me out of Philippines back home, and I got out of the Navy. Went back to American River Junior College, and let's see what number, that's number 10. Okay, let's see, what was 11? I wanted to mention, this is a fun one, Frank. You mentioned about ice cream. Well, while I was in the Navy, a buddy of mine, a real good buddy of mine, became a lifetime friend of mine. His folks lived in LA, and on the long weekends when we were in port, we'd go up to his family house and stay there. Well, so we got a job as driving. It's called the good humor man. So how do you argue with a job that says you're the good humor man? No, I wasn't pushing drugs, but sort of. I was pushing ice cream. So I was driving the ice cream truck and had the little bell, ding, 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 and the kids would come running out, and I'd sell them the ice cream. And so, Frank, you remembered something else you said about ice cream machines, and it was just funny as heck. So, okay, so that was number 11. I think I'm going to pause on this one. We're about 13 minutes, and that'll be a decent upload to the YouTube channel. And so hang on, Frank. I'll pick it up in a minute.